I valued others even more. Serving leadership was valuing others more than valuing me. And I bought into that. It's like, well, no, I can't. I mean, again, I can't. I did that for years and I was up to here because you cannot value others by devaluing you. And what I mean by that is that you cannot value others' times if you don't value your time.
Turn this up, turn this up.
Your professional development is one of the keys to your career success. When you combine your desire to grow with actionable steps, your journey to success becomes an incredible reality.
Hi, I'm Paul Faronbi, aka IncrediPaul, and welcome to IncrediPaul Leadership, where I talk to incredible people doing incredible things so we become the most incredible versions of ourselves. First off, thank you so much for listening to the show. I also want you to know that you can also watch it on YouTube. Regardless if you're listening or watching the show, thank you so much for your support. Today, I have the honor of having Hannah Bauer on the show. She's the founder of Heartnomics. She helps leaders achieve transformation through love and excellence. I really love that. Valuing people while driving measurable performance. And she's a former CEO, board chair, and executive director with advanced expertise in leadership systems and operational excellence. Hannah equips leaders to strengthen culture, boost engagement, and thrive under pressure without burning out. I think that last part is really key. So that was a little bit about you, Hannah. How about you introduce yourself the way you would do it?
Hey, Paul, thank you so much for having me. A true pleasure. And plus, of course, first of all, I love your background. I'm so familiar with the books. So I love that we shared that together.
Thank you.
But really, that's been a big part of my journey is growth, right? I mean, and it's come from different books, experiences, and all of that has led me really to the service. And in this service is how I help leaders in aligning the purpose, aligning the people, and aligning performance, the great people that they work with, and aligning to the performance that they're seeking to do through getting them back in line through processes, systems, excellence, and love, what I call. And it's been really an honorable journey for me because I get to meet a lot of great, amazing people just like you.
Hey, I appreciate that compliment. You are incredible, which I want to have you on the show to talk about the thing. So take me back to when you were growing up, or
Mhm.
like at what point did you realize do you want to do what you're doing now? Kind of like walk me through your story.
Well, a little bit about me. I had a bit of a different perspective in life. At a very young age, I was diagnosed with a lethal form of heart disease. So every day for me, and again, I was 4 years old when it started, so I didn't really understand life and death. I understood not breathing. So if you were to say
Yeah.
like what points were the ones that really made me realize, I think every time I would struggle with breathing just brought me to the reality of like, hey, there's something different. And it really got me to believe there's something greater than even this moment. In the greater may look different. So that really started as a young age for me. So moving forward, I guess obviously I'm here. I'm the result of an innovative surgery, and that surgery is what was another aha moment for me. It actually didn't happen when the surgery happened. Of course, the surgery helped me have a life. It happened as a result of many failed interventions and really me living in a hospital for about 5 years.
5 years?
5 years. So I didn't have that until the age of 14. So actually, all of this, when you're talking about the aha moments, what really got me to where I'm what I'm doing now, it really came 20 years later when I got this call from Children's Healthcare of Atlanta, which is at the hospital here. And they wanted to do a documentary on my story. And at that point, I realized that I was a medical breakthrough, that it had been the first surgery. It's called a heart ablation. And at that point, it had saved 3,000 other children. And they wanted to celebrate that moment. So
Wait,
I
you
got,
were the first?
yeah, I was the first. I was the first. Yeah. So what got me to that moment, right?
Yeah.
It is a very, I grew up in a hospital. I was also in the adult hospital. I mean, the whole story, I could tell you a bit more, but suffered 2 heart attacks by the age of 10. And a lot of my life was not having that breathing. I had both arrhythmia, which is when the heart goes out of rhythm. So every time the heart is going out of rhythm, for those of you that maybe have run before, and when you know that moment when it's calming down, you suddenly feel like between the high rate and the low rate, like your heart's going a little funky until it gets to the that rhythm again. Well, I lived with that in between rhythm, that arrhythmia, that in not getting to a high point, not getting to a low point, just like the fluctuating rhythm. So that's basically what I had. Plus, I had tachycardia, which meant it would go really fast. Again, if you've been exercising on a treadmill, you understand, or you're trying to get your heart zones, you get them to really fast heart rate to build endurance and resilience, but it's only sustainable for a little bit. And then you decrease the activity, your heart comes down. Well, mine wouldn't come down. It would stay there for hours, sometimes days. It,
Dang.
days. So at that point, I my body wasn't the systems were all shutting down. So that's how I grew up. That was me as a kid. I grew up on a bed, grew up at a hospital bed, not because I wanted to. I little things like getting up, I couldn't do. I wasn't even allowed to go to school because I became a high liability due to the heart attacks. So like there was no really there was not a way that they could handle that. And it was a very frustrating, hurtful, painful in all kinds of ways and scary. Those are the principles, though, that allowed me to do what I'm doing today. I understand uncertainty. I understand not having a solution in really fighting for every breath. In business, fighting for every breath is basically fighting for your income, right? Oxygen and
Mm.
money, money is the oxygen for a business. So I understand that. I understand being out of rhythm when you have silos and you have conflicting priorities and like you want to do this, but you have to do this. And you know that somebody else is telling you or outside circumstances telling you what you need to do. So what my aha moments came once I did hear when I was at the 20-year anniversary and I heard my doctor say, so what were you trying to do? I mean, like this is the surgery, what was it? What was the plan? Tell us how you got there. And he plainly said, we were just trying to keep her alive long enough for technology to catch up. And that was the another aha moment for me. It's like, oh, what kept me alive long enough? Love. That sustained me. And what was the technology catching up? It was a commitment that in light of failure, they were going to keep on trying because technology became that innovation. It was doing the same thing in different ways. And what really brought those two together? It was the people, it was the team, it was the mission, it was the vision, it was that leadership. And that was the birth of Heartnomics. So it was at that moment that I realized how it both came together.
That is such an incredible story. What I love the most about that story is the fact that you were able to take a seemingly insurmountable situation, which growing up in a hospital, being the first, I can't get over that. You're really the first person to have this, you said heart ablation
Yep.
surgery, and
Yeah.
then they reached back out for when they had 3,000, and you were able to take those things and pour that into a company, a business to empower people with heart, with the love, with the determination, with having that vision and leadership. And it's truly incredible.
Appreciate that. I didn't set out to like, hey, I'm gonna use it, but I think it was those moments because you know what happened, Paul. I think sometimes we forget a lot of the things, the experience in the past, or we want to forget. So there was a period of my life where I wanted to forget, like, well, that didn't happen. I just wanted to be normal. I didn't want people
Mm.
look at me differently or treat me differently or like, the only thing like I guess the one constant was whenever I would wear my shirts is that you could see my open heart surgery scar. So then people would ask, and I would do everything I could to hide my scars. I 100%. And it wasn't until that moment that again, I realized that because that scar, the open heart surgery was a failure. It didn't work and they tested it right away. So I was like, I was 12 years old. It was done as again, it was an experiment. They were trying to do the same thing. And in order for them to see if the surgery worked, they had to test it. So they inject it with adrenaline in hopes that your heart will go up and then it will come down like it would, like if you were exercising. Well, my heart didn't go down and my heart went into another lethal episode. So now I am going through the same episode, fast heart rate, arrhythmia, the pain that comes with that, the not breathing, but I'm cut open. And I carried so much resentment towards that, that later on in life, all I wanted to do was hide that scar. And then it came to a point where I realized, you know what? That scar was part of the solution. That scar, it wasn't a failure. It was a step in the process to get to innovation. And when I embraced my scar, I embraced my story. And that's what allowed me to do what I do today.
That was a mic drop moment. You just had it right there. When you embrace your scar, you embrace your story. And it just unlocks everything you can do. That's so powerful, because I like to say that the pathway to success is paved with failure. But when you really put it in that sense, that when you're embracing your scars and embracing those things that are seemingly what you would want to forget,
Yeah.
that allows you to move forward to what you actually want.
Yes. Yeah. No, it's the truth. I mean, I lived it now physically. And then later on, like I said, as I was trying to do my leadership and life, and hey, I'm going to go do this because I had forgotten that is where I started making my mistakes,
Mm,
where I started embracing what other people said my leadership needed to be like, or what a leader does, or, how we do things, which of course we learn. But you can't let go of also the lessons that you have and also really the mentors that you have in life. So a lot of what I talk about today, actually all of it is because of the mistakes that I made when doing really good things. I became really good with processes and systems. It was something that I realized I needed to acquire as a skill because as much as I wanted to be hopeful and things, I needed to find a repeatable, reliable way that I could help other people learn from it, just like they did with my surgery. So I did that and I did it very well, but I forgot connection. I forgot building rapport. I forgot the humans that were behind that process and system. And that's where I had to go back to heart. And that's what I start with my leaders now is going back to really the heart of what you do, of who we are, of your organizations, of your purpose. Because once you have that heart, that connection, everything else can flow from that. I see a lot of the burnout, misalignment because of leaders consistently wanting to lead out of processes, leading out of systems, or leading from tools instead of leading from people that use tools, that use processes, that use systems to amplify the talent, the goods, the services that we have to offer the world.
I love that reframe from focus on the tools to focus on the people that are using the tools that unlocks everything that you want.
Yeah, it's true. It's something, when we talk about burnout, because it happens. I meet a lot of great leaders. I myself was one. And it's a daily thing. It's like breathing is a daily thing. Just breathe one time and do it. And that's what I see a lot of leaders. I see a lot of leaders like taking one deep breath, holding their breath, and going as much as they can and forgetting to breathe in the middle of it. And what does a breath look like for a leader? It means stepping out. It means being aware, being compassionate with yourself, celebrating. Celebrating takes taking a breath. Embracing is taking a breath. Learning it's gonna take you to take a breath, not just keep pushing through until something happens. Well, what happens when you don't take a breath and you're pushing through? I mean, been there, heart attacks, you know, you don't breathe. It doesn't work out at the end, y'all.
You got to take those breaths. I think that that's really critical. This platform is focused on younger professionals, specifically like Gen Z professionals in STEM. And I think there is a lot of this hustle culture, this be your own boss within. I mean, I think that's becoming more and more common, but I see more in Gen Z. Like everyone wants to become their own boss. But I guess, what would you tell someone that wants to be their own boss or feels like they need to grind it out? Like, what are some signs of burnout before you're actually at that point? Because I think if you could catch it earlier, is probably better than you're at the end.
Okay, so really that question's kinda like, I'll answer it in three parts.
Mhm.
really that first part in as far as, what as a Gen Z, this we have to learn all these things. I understand that from being in the hospital and not allowing to go to school, and even the rest of my life, just feeling like I had to catch up. I wasn't enough. I couldn't learn fast enough. I mean, I had years I wasn't with people, literally. And in a very time where it was a formative time, it really, every time I would go back into the classroom or I would go back into any form of place where there's other humans, I would feel like I was behind. And I think that's a feeling that a lot of people share. It's like, hey, the updates just happened. There's been like 3 updates. There's a new software. There's a new AI tool. Actually, it's not just an AI tool. Now you get to create your own AI tools. Now those AI tools are creating themselves. They're agentic. And now you have to understand what it is that they're doing so that you can respond to it. So this world is going super fast. And no matter how much I want, I can't catch up. So I understand that feeling, and it's not going to slow down. I mean, I don't think anybody thinks it's going to slow down. As a matter of fact, I mean, we keep on asking for how long is this going to take? How fast? Even the way we eat our food, right? Drive through fast food places. Immediately, we want everything faster. So it's not only the pace that is going, but it's also the desire that people are experiencing right now that can definitely keep any professional, anybody trying to, especially if you've grown up in this, to feel like you're behind. And I want to give you comfort in that you're not behind. You are human first. All of these things would not exist had it not been for humans. They're run by humans, for humans, and we have always evolved, survived, and thrived. So there is, first of all, a place for you. When do we feel that we're not enough? Is when we don't have that sense of belonging. So that goes to the second part, the community aspect. Why do we feel like we have to do everything as our own boss? Well, because we're in a trust crisis. We don't trust people. So we're not meant to do this life alone. We're not meant to do everything and carry all the hats. That's why we have teams. Teams are not just a nice to have, it's something you grow into. It's something that you have from the beginning so you can grow. And the way that leadership utilizes teams and really how it serves teams is because we're able to leverage each other's strength. You won't have each other's strength. And this is the false as confidence that all these tools give us, is that we can do everything and be everywhere all at one time if we just know how to utilize these things. If we just have monitors and places. So that way I don't have to deal with people because I can just tell the tools and I can manage them whichever way. That is going to lead to burnout. You cannot do it. We're not meant to do that. We're meant to do a lot of great things together. We're meant to do a lot of amazing, creative, innovative things as humans together as a world. So we're not made to be omnipresent, which is called that omnipotent, all powerful,
No,
and
absolutely.
controlling of all. There's only one who does that, and we know who it is, right? We have our Savior, our Lord and Savior, and we would definitely believe in divine appointments, and there's one that can do all that, and
Mhm.
I believe that is God. So this false sense in us trying to do everything at once is going to lead to burnout because we're not made to do that. We're made to be in community. You see what happens to mental health in isolation. It goes down quick. We see what happens even in lack of purpose once somebody has even retired. If they don't find themselves or they're really in touch with themselves, health declines really quick. Isolation comes down really quick. So how do we avoid it? Which is that third part of the burnout. Stay on purpose every day. Stay connected. You got to do that. First, leading yourself and leading others. So finding that purpose, aligning your daily activities to that purpose. That means some things stay, some things go. That's bottom lines. And you are amazingly the great human being you are. You get to make that choice. You get to decide what stays, what goes. Is it going to look different? Absolutely. Is it going to be easy? No. Choose your pain. There's a pain of doing it all, trying to do it all. And there's a pain in only doing the things that you're meant to do, that where you are going to win. And for both of those, it's going to cost. But a wonderful thing about it is that you don't have to do it alone. I mean, that's why you're here. That's why you have this stage. So people don't have to do it alone. That's why we're part of a team. So we don't have to do it alone. So stay connected, stay close to the voices, in a line. Find your community.
Find your community. So beautifully said how you wrapped all those things. I think that's becoming more and more noticed that people need community, that we live in seemingly the most connected time ever with social media, but there's so much disconnection
Yes.
because we don't know how to connect in person anymore. It feels like everyone is connecting for the sake of building their own thing or doing things on their own, but they're not having that true human connection. They're thinking of like what the next thing is, and can go on and on about how social media has distracted us from what real life looks like because we just curated a life that doesn't exist for anyone. No one's life is like that all the time.
No, I understand. Actually, that was one of the I remember when I was about my mid-20s, I was actually at a leadership retreat. And I remember one of the speakers talking about being a human. And I'm like, well, yeah. So like I didn't understand like, okay, what's the big deal until I started looking at the way I look myself, at the expectations I had of myself. I can't go 24/7 and think that my life and my world is gonna be okay. I can't be responding and keeping everybody happy, pleasing everybody, and expect to yet achieve the purpose and the great things that are made for me. I mean, I'm not. I'm not gonna be enjoying life if I don't accept my humanness first. And that's when I realized I didn't really know how to be a human. What is a human? What's a human being? Yeah, and that came back even from being in the hospital. Because guess what? In the hospital, I mean, my formative years, since I lived always I mean, I literally had to be at times tied to a bed. Why? Because I couldn't move. I was consistently having cords coming out. I had all kinds of monitors. I was being poked consistently. So, and I really had at that point, not only because I was a child, but everything else that was going, not really felt like not really much option for choice. So it was all these things that were being happening to me, and I was like basically what everybody else having conversations about me without me involved. I mean, I get it because they're all discussing, right? They're all strategizing, and I got set in there, and I don't get it. I don't understand. And isn't that how we sometimes feel with social media? All of these conversations going around, they're describing me, but I'm not there. So I'm like, I'm there, but I'm not there. I was in and I'm the object, the person, the very important being. And at the same time, I wasn't understanding how all this fit in. And I think that is one of the main things too, as we're talking about connection, is really honing in into your identity. But that identity really is amplified when you understand how the connection with the people that are around you, the people that are doing the work with you, and the all the different entities that come together to be able to for you to be. We don't just shop on our own. We don't just work on our own. We don't just build our houses on our own. There's all of this part of a system. There's systematic things. And that's one of the things I do teach my leaders is being able to have that systemic view that you as a human, you're not an island to yourself. And if you're a leader, if you don't have followers, you're not really leading anything. You cannot be a leader with
Or
no
walk.
followers, right? You cannot. It doesn't. I mean, like even if you live in an island on your own, you're gonna have to learn a lot of things. So how long will you survive? So understanding that everything that you do is part of a system. So understanding what are those systems in around you that are helping you, that you are both adding to and taking from. Because that very much is going to talk about your connectedness, your community, your purpose, the collective impact that we have. There's a collective impact that you, even with wherever you're at right now, you're having an impact, believe it or not, because every part of the system impacts another system. And that's what I'm passionate about. What I do, I teach people the internal alignment, which is the heartbeat, but also in light of the organizational alignment, which is the hardcore. Again, this comes from the heart. So it's the hardcore, which comes to know about each heartbeat. Understanding that I cannot grow or think that I'm going to have this organization or this business or this idea or this platform, whatever it is, social media, all on my own. There has to be a core, right? There is a core. There's a reason why you're doing this. You can have great material, but if you don't have likes, followers, subscribers, it's not going to go anywhere. It's going to take other people. It's going to take community. Same way. as you're building these things, you have to align with what? With what are the voices that you hear? What is the how are you going to show up? What is the attitude? What is it that you want to learn? So it's that internal alignment, and we must be able to manage both. And that is part of connection. Connected within, connected externally without, and being able to act in that purpose together.
That's really powerful. So a lot of those things, and I just feel like you keep dropping so much knowledge, so many truth bombs as we go through it. But I know, at least, so we're recording this in 2025. It's going to come out in 2026. Not entirely sure where it come out yet. So I don't want to say a month and have it totally be off. But I know based on when we're recording, you had a book release last year in
Yeah.
2025. A lot of the things you're talking about, are they in the book? I want to make sure people can actually capture all of this. Obviously, they listening and watching, but I want them to be able to reference it too.
Yeah, well, thank you for asking. So this is the little book. It's actually a very small read, and I made it because they're bite size. It's for the very busy leader. If you see it, this is what the inside looks like. It's very small,
Okay.
but this is meant to be the reading for a week.
Okay. Well, for those, because I know there's listeners and watchers, for those listening, she's holding up the book. But yeah.
It's a little book. It's 52 mini shifts. And I call them mini because, again, for me, I had to learn to do like very small things, not being able to do
Mhm.
a lot of things um, that will make that great impact. And one of the things I want to talk about here, because this is hustle with heart. Heart is my framework, which is for hope, empowerment, accountability, results, and trust. So this book is meant to help you grow in these values. Accountability is one of the words that people run away from, or they have a negative part.
Allergic to it.
Yeah, allergic to, it becomes one of those dirty words, honestly. But accountability, the way I see it, is community, because you cannot be accountable unless you're talking to somebody else. When we talk about accountability, is that community. So even for those of you that are looking like, well, how can I grow in connectedness? How can I grow? And that really what you're talking about is how can I grow in accountability? And accountability is about harmonizing with others. So I have 10 mini shifts here specifically for those of you that want to be able to grow in that is how do I grow in connectionness with others? How do I grow in accountability? Because that's really, once you're able to do that, you cannot give what you don't have. You're able to then not only be accountable to others, but in leadership, also hold others accountable in love, not a punitive thing, in love, because accountability is what helps us grow, is what helps us build trust. When we have trust, we have relationships. When we have strong, healthy relationships, I don't need to tell you, Paul, you know what the difference is between a strong and a healthy relationship. Trust is in the very middle just of it. And why don't we have this? Why do we feel we have to do everything? Why do we feel burned out? This whole feeling that I have to do everything, it's a myth, it's a lie. And we have to learn to build trust, and we also have to learn to give and receive trust. And that is an area where I find consistent gaps in performance, in the way that we want to go, and where we're at, and the frustration that comes in between. And it really is a trust. And understandably so, there's a lot of things right now that tells us why we can't trust. There's a lot of different scary times. Uncertainty definitely brings a lot of mistrust. There's things that fail. For example, like when my surgery failed. I mean, like now I had like the open heart, like a scar.
Mhm.
How in the world was I gonna say yes to now a surgery that had never been done? Like that was one that was done before that had worked on people. Now you're asking me and my parents to go into a surgery that had never been done, that is very high risk, had no guarantees. Trust. So you have to understand what are the systems, the process that builds trust. So there has to be it's a systematic way to build it. There's a systematic way to do it, and of course, I believe very much in faith. There's we're not talking about that, but that is definitely a very dimension too that needs to be taken into account as well in aligning.
Absolutely. And feel free to talk about it, because I'm very open on the show. I'm a person of faith. I have people who maybe are from different faiths are on the talk, but if there's things you want to talk about in that area, definitely go for it. Because I definitely feel like trust is one of those things that we know, like, instinctively is important, I don't think we realize how deeply rooted it is in everything that we do. There's an aspect of trust. Like just a simple example is just the fact that you are driving, you are trusting that the other person on the other side of the road is not going to cross into your lane. They're going to stop at stoplights, stop at stop signs. And then anytime that is broken in trust, that's when accidents happen, people have trauma, whether physically or emotionally.
Yeah.
Trust is the foundation of so many things.
Oh, it is. For those of you, especially a professional, right? I mean, we're wanting to do a business. I mean, we know that we do business with whom? People that we know, we like, and we trust.
Trust.
So trust very much is at the very core of business, of careers. For those of you that are even doing nonprofits, for if you're looking for partners, if you're looking for foundations, they're asking for all this validation. What is validation? Show me how I can trust you. Validate means trustworthy. Think about trusts. When we leave trusts, right? When we pass away, there is a trust. Why? That is with very set rules, and even in our currency, what is our currency? It says, in God we trust. So we understand that trust is in everything. And let me tell you, where I see again, where the leaders, where people is in this chip away of trust, but it's not only in the trust with communities and people, mainly the trust here in me. And that is shown with lack of confidence. What is lack of confidence? Not confidence is doubting your own self. Not confident in your decision making means that you don't really know what it is that you want. Doubt in what's your next step, that really tells you like, okay, I'm frustrated. I really may not have the resources. The trust is also internally. And of course, the first one to trust, because when everything's changing, when all the world is uncertain, when I don't really know if this is going to work and I'm down to my last couple of coins here, and is it going to work? We also know that the first one that we trust is the non-changing one, which is God. He is unchanging throughout the world. He is the rock. He says the main thing for him is also trust. We can trust that his word doesn't change. So we also, why do we feel so lost many times too? Because we're not standing on our rock, and we have to stand on our rock first. There has to be a place of steadiness, and that he definitely comes to steadiness. And from that is the other parts, right? Knowing that we haven't been given more than we can handle. We haven't. I know it feels overwhelming. I know it feels like you're way over your head. I know it feels like, oh my gosh, that is insurmountable. Even my vision is too big that I can handle. I mean, I guess it really can, but understanding that you have not been given more than you can handle. If you have that thought right now, if you have that vision right now, if you have that desire right now, because you've been trusted with it and also you've been fully resourced to have it. Otherwise, you wouldn't have that idea to begin with. Otherwise, you wouldn't be frustrated to begin with. People are not frustrated. I have a 5-year-old. She's not frustrated with things. She doesn't care. She's happy-go-lucky. She's fine. She completely trusts that I'm going to give her what she needs today. The toy or not the toy, but she doesn't have this constant frustration. Is mommy going to feed me today? She doesn't have this frustration of like, hey, it's her thing more than my thing or all this stuff. How's it going to be? And then, when do I have to go back to school? Yeah, there's not this frustration because she's completely trusting right now. And that's why we also need to be like that. We need to be there. Has to be a place where we trust. There has to be a place where we go to. My first one is God. But we have to also consider what are the thoughts, the desires that you have in this changing world. You have a purpose, a solution. And when we're able to tap into that, burnout is not like completely annihilated, annihilated. But let me tell you, it doesn't no longer is the burnout that's leading you to not do things. It becomes your passion that starts leading you for things. And passion is crazy. You see what we do with passion. I mean, one of the crazy things that we do in the Maxwell team, for example, is this the country transformations, where you have all these coaches come from around the world to a country that I have never been to, most of them. And to top it off, not even speaking the language. And they pay for it. To do what? To be equipped with what? With like a process. All they're carrying is a process. And that's the only thing where people are raising their hands. I'm going to facilitate this process, with integrity. And you're going to go there and we're going to go into places you've never been before. But they don't even speak your language. But we promise you that if you go through this process, it's going to change your country. That takes a lot of trust. That takes a lot of trust. And you know what? It's crazy. But guess what? Been working for example, for the foundation, it's been over 10 years, even from the first country in Guatemala, where we were seeing the overall impact 10 years later, as far as even incarceration for the youth, the returning, coming back, how it's decreased. The GDP, there's signs, right? GDP rising. So, what are the symptoms, the signs? It's not that everything's fixed, but there are signals, there's symptoms there. So, trust will lead you to passion. Passion may seem crazy. That passion may be something very simple, but a passion is definitely going to carry a process. And that process is going to have signals of progress as time goes by. And that's what I'm telling you today, that you need to have the passion, the love, and you need to have the process, the excellence. And those combined with that leadership, you're gonna see those transformations and you're gonna see the difference between, of course, between what is it, being just dwindling down to being burning out. Some people of course will say, hey, I'd rather burn out than fade out. That's the way we live. I mean, and sometimes that's how it feels. Like I will not fade, but I may burn. But either way, don't do it burn. Like your catalyst also burns. And you know what? When a catalyst burns, it doesn't fade out, but it makes other things go brighter, brighter than even its own light.
That is so powerful because I said that a lot of things were like centered on trust, but the way you broke it down, even going from trust all the way to progress and having that passion in the process, that is so true. And I'm glad you brought up the Maxwell Foundation, the transformation tables, because that is something that's so powerful that is being done like over, or you mentioned in the last 10 years. And the fact that you mentioned that yeah, you have to have the trust in the process to go to a country you don't even speak the language, never been to trust that it's going to happen. That's truly incredible.
Yeah. No, it is. But then that's also the beauty of a process, right? Because I know, a lot of times in the youth, and for me, and that's what we love about the youth is because they're so passionate.
Mhm.
Suddenly when we get older, suddenly you don't see that passion anymore. So it's very refreshing in the youth to see like, oh, everything seems so reachable and they're big, huge things. And then we look sometimes like the older people look back, it's like, yeah, well, to try that. But at the same time, it's no. We need to have that every day. Why would we live without that? If your dreams are not bigger now that you're older than when you were younger, then the problem is not age. Problem is your purpose. The problem is that you are need to lead yourself better. Be that aware leader. There's nothing that says that we have to go through the hard knocks of life to now have to go through the hard knocks of life to now be without passion, without purpose, and just waiting to pay our bills every day. And I feel like a lot of our leaders, that's how they're living. Like with time, it doesn't create a greater fire. Most don't. But on the contrary, it's lesson and lesson. Oh, no, I learned my lesson. No, I'm doing that again. You go ahead. You go ahead. You go ahead. And that is also a part that I would call my older leaders to recognize and to bring out the fire again because our younger generation needs it. We can't ask our younger generation to be leaders if we're not showing what good leadership looks like. And it's fun, it's energizing, it's transformational, it's crazy. Like going to another country, not even speaking, with a process, not even with like any AI or technology tools or anything like that. It's crazy. But you know what? It's fun and it's transformational and it does something good and it does something collective. And I know for me, my first trip, for example, that's what set me off, more on fire to be able to do what I want to do. It's like, hey, you know what? I can do this thing. Like I can not only deep, I can be that because the reason why we do get passionate about what we do is because we see how it impacted us. And that's the first part with the Gen Z. The main thing is integrity. It has to be part of you, and that's where the trust is. People are not gonna buy what you sell, they're buying you. They're buying you, how it impacted you, they're buying you, that was, like, the whole sell of social media, right? It gave you, like, a behind the scenes, the real thing, and now we're seeing that they're not so real. People only show the parts that they want, right? So, be a person. that wherever is being looked at behind the scene, in front of the scenes, if they were just to take whatever that you are a person of integrity because that's what's really going to take you through whatever change comes, through whatever it looks like, through whatever business, through whatever nonprofit, through whatever transformation, to whatever, because you need to be a person of integrity. And I would say that would be the number one thing to grow in. It's not just something that happens, it's that it starts with a decision. But we gotta build that muscle the same way you work out, the same way you're working out different parts as you work out in integrity because it might be easy to say, it is definitely a lot easier to do than not to do because if you don't do it, you may even go to jail. But you definitely want to be a person of integrity. But let me tell you, it takes it is hard to be integrous, even in like when you see other people that are not being integrous. So it's gonna take courage. Courage is gonna have a cost. It's not gonna go out the way that you expected. I know there's been a lot of times where, I have been, interested in things and, I haven't advanced as fast as others. And there's always that temptation, and I think that's another part with our generation now with leaders, the temptation of hacking everything, which I understand being smart, but you also have to be efficient and integrous in that efficiency because that's what's going to be sustainable, not just this one time, but it's going to sustain you over time.
Yeah. Is that process that leadership and personal growth is developed daily, not in a day.
Yeah.
Is is so critical to remember that. And I like how you mentioned the integrity gap because yeah, you could just go to jail if you don't do it right. But
Yeah.
it can be hard sometimes because you can see a lot of people like when you so to speak, see how the sausage is made behind the scenes, and those people that aren't being aren't showing integrity, aren't being integrous, and they're going far, far ahead. I think what needs to be said and reminded of is I don't know how many leadership failures or things have happened over the last few years of people that you would never have guessed. And it always catches up to you at some point, and it happens at the worst possible time. So when you're trying to do these hacks or shortcuts, you might get there faster. And this is not a knock on artificial intelligence, AI. I think it's here to stay, how you embrace it, whatever. But I think you can't shortcut the process you take of developing yourself too. Yes, it's good to use the tools, but make sure you're being intentional about developing yourself as well.
Oh my goodness, 100% actually. I mean, you think about it because a lot of our decision making, why we do some things and why we don't do some things, because we have a moral compass. All of us have a moral compass. Now, some choose to hear it, some don't. It's just, that's how it is, right? So, but regardless, we all have this moral compass. So, number one is, well, where are you getting your moral compass from? But I can tell you a lot of decisions or like even advice or guidance that comes from tools, they're done without a moral compass. There is no moral compass in there because they're not humans. They don't have souls. They don't have like understanding. Again, this morality, it comes from the way that you're brought up, right? I mean, your faith, things that you know. So when you're talking about even AI tools or even these things, you have to understand that it's giving you information that you can use, but it's not giving you all the information you can use. And this is where you, as a human, are able to give to these tools things that can be repeatable, that are tasks that are menial. But at the end of the day, the decision making does come from you, and you have authority because you have morality. And this morality is not embedded into these tools. So, and if you can find that out, you can research that. Even the authors of these tools, the morality can be very biased. Whoever is behind that. So, in that sense, have to be very use it for what it can be used because there's definitely a place, right? I mean, I know I use it to get a lot of my tasks done, but I also use it to give me options, and then I check those options. So, sometimes none of those options are the ones that I want to go. They're not. And I can say that now. And this is where, again, my heart goes to the younger generation because this morality compass, it is for the older generations to help the younger generation develop it, give it to them because it's not something that's going to come from a tool or just an app. It's not. It's going to impact, it's going to influence your moral compass, but it's not what should make your moral compass. So, very much this is it is, and this is where keeping human first, being human centric, understanding that there's so much more dimensions to us as humans than there is to any tool. And at the end of the day, we're the ones given the authority. The authority has been bestowed upon us, not upon the things that we create. We are the creation. We are the DNA. We are the image. And the authority relies here. And it is our responsibility to be able to develop and operate in that authority with integrity and be able to raise up. And that's what leadership is. I mean, if you ask me, how do you know that person's a leader? Well, I see, are they creating other leaders? A leader doesn't just like, oh, I lead everything and I have nobody else. No, a leader creates other leaders. So I will call upon the leaders. Any leader is listening to this. What leaders are you creating? How are you creating leaders, not followers? Yes, you do need followers, but how are you creating leaders? Because we have to multiply. And that is one of the great calls, really. Even it doesn't matter your age, not just only the established leaders, but the younger leaders. My background is in education. So I was in a publisher for about 18 years, going K through 12. And that's the funny part, right? Because I couldn't go to school. So it's like, only God.
Yeah.
And honestly, that I know I make light of it, but think about it. I came to this country, I didn't speak English. I wasn't allowed to go to school. I ended up running a publishing company that taught grammar, English.
Serious?
Yes. And later on, I was elected in 2016 as chair for the entire industry in the United States. So then I had influence over every content development developed for kids. Again, somebody who I didn't have oxygen for most of my life. So what happens when you don't have oxygen? You can't learn. And what happens when you can't go to school? Well, there's also that time. But here's the thing. First of all, God. Second of all, a desire to not be conformed to you outside circumstances. And then nothing is impossible. You really, that's where beat came from. That's where heart came from. That's where core came from. It's not just tools and fun names. I've used them in my life and I have proof that this does work. You gotta put human first and be able to value, like what we do in the Maxwell team, right? We are people of value that value others and add value to them. And that's exactly what we do. We put the human first.
Human first. And it comes back to being just understanding you're a human being, because that's what you said before. Because sometimes we act like we're human doings. I've heard that before. Like, oh, we're doing all these things. So just the essence of being human, just existing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, what's wrong with just taking a day where all you're doing? What did you do today? I enjoyed my day. What? It's just like, no, no, tell me all the great things you did. Why could enjoy my day be the great thing I did? I mean, how many people do you know really enjoy their day? That's all they do. They enjoy their day. Now, if you do that all the time, it's out of balance. You're not supposed to do that all the time, right? But you do have to enjoy, your life, enjoy it with what you do, enjoy it with what you don't do. There's definitely things I enjoy not doing, So like, I'm glad I don't have to do that.
That's
But really taking that and that's embracing humanity. That's embracing like the different parts, the things that make us quirky, the things that makes us fun, the things that, brings us joy, silly things, and doing them again in purposeful. I mean, I've had to become, and actually this year, that was part of what my word for the year is abide. And I thought, I was like, what do you mean abide? It's like, what do you, because abide seems so like, like calm down and, just the whole, resting, right? The resting and the being engulfed. And, I wanted something exciting. Like, give me multiplication, give me velocity, give me, like something like that. Why is it abide? And I'm telling you, it's probably been the hardest, most challenging word I've had ever because it takes work. Amazingly, it takes work to rest. And
man.
it really does. And honestly, it's been a year of learning for me because it does take work to rest, and I didn't understand that. And that's why also the work is, it's been done because all the work has been done. Therefore, we can rest. And it was a lot of work. It was a lot of work for us to be here today. It's been a lot of work, and we can rest in it. Doesn't mean that we don't do anything. It means that we're resting in it. So there's this flow, there's this rhythm, there's this purpose, there's this authority, there's this things that we can do and enjoy our lives. but there's rest in work. And we see that. I mean, that's what it is. I've had to learn to sleep, to give myself good sleep. I've had to, I mean, like, yeah, like here I am, like the fast couple times, hey, take a breath. I'm like, well, I'm not breathing. What's going on? So, and it's not because of a heart disease, it's because of my schedule. It's my own choices. So I can make a change about that. And I started doing that. I did that this year. I mean, I got 5 kids, so it's only to the extent that I can do.
Gosh.
But yeah, it's like resting in your work, abiding, and abiding in the security that you have with, who God is, who He's made you to be, aligning with you, and in the work, the purpose of your work. If you've been tasked with it, if you've been trusted with that work, also know you're fully equipped. So you can abide in that. You can abide that you're going to be resourced. You're going to be a resource with talent. You're going to be a resource with the funding. You're going to be a resource with things. And diligence always pays off, right? You gotta be diligent. And in the diligence, there's the rest, there's the flow, there's the love, there's the excellence that comes.
Wow. That is so powerful. And it's something that I have been actively working on is resting more really over the last couple of years and more intentional about it. It's a
Yeah.
work in progress. I would say the last 2, yeah, because between that and the fact that I'm a recovering perfectionist, like this just not lend itself. But it's the whole idea that both of us are for macro leadership. And it's just the fact that we're constantly growing and developing and understanding that we're every day can be better than the previous day, but only way that that's going to happen is when we're growing and understanding that there's always going to be something to work on, but is what our priority is, what our focus is. And if we focus on adding value to people and having true values, because it's hard to add value to people if you don't even know what your values are. What does it look like? So starting there, and then everything comes out of.
That's burnout. That's burnout. That's when you're trying to do that, right? You're trying to add value when you yourself don't value yourself.
Hmm.
Yeah, you're running on fumes. So you gotta
Absolutely.
get it first. You cannot get what you don't have at all. You can't. And I've lived like that too. I've lived like where I was trying to do everything.
Hmm.
Honestly, I think I also got caught up in another lie or my lack of understanding or whatever it was that I valued others even more. Serving leadership was valuing others more than valuing me. And
Mm,
I bought into that. It's like, well, no, I can't. I mean, again, I can't. I did that for years and I was up to here
mm,
because you cannot value others by devaluing you. And what I mean by that is that you cannot value others' times if you don't value your time. So even in service, not be consistently, oh, my family will understand or my body will understand. I'm not going to give it the rest it needs because I got to go do this. My kids will get it. They know I'll be there another time. So that's devaluing the priorities that we may have if you're consistently doing that because, oh, I got to do this greater thing. There's not like that. You got to know your priorities and you cannot compromise. It really becomes a word. I mean, resting sounds like something so simple, but like you said, you've had to become intentional. I had to become intentional in giving myself rest. How many hours of sleep do I need? Like I need to give myself that. And it is my choice. Can I run my body 24, 48 hours? Yes, I've done it. And it doesn't look good. I pay for it the rest of the week, especially when you get older. It doesn't work. For those of you that are in Gen Z right now, it's like, oh yeah, I do that all the time. I only need 5 hours of sleep. Now, that's not gonna happen when you're older
yeah.
and it's gonna cost your health. So giving yourself those things, understanding what it is that you need, hydration, giving yourself water. I know that I've also the same thing. Oh, I want to take a break because I really want to get this done, and it's been like 10 hours later. It's like I forgot to eat, I forgot to drink, I forgot to sleep. What is that? I cannot add value if I'm not valuing me too. So, and it's not because I'm putting myself above anybody, not at all. But it's the way I honor somebody is also because I have to honor me first and I have to honor my God first. Honoring him. I can't honor somebody else either. So it all goes. It's alignment. It all goes.
It all comes together. Yeah. I know it's funny because at the beginning I told you, it's like, yeah, we'll run talk for maybe 30, 40 minutes. We're getting close to an hour, and I feel like we could easily go another hour, but I don't know if we'll keep people with us if we do that. So as we kind of wrap things up, is there any other key thing? Because you unpacked a lot of things with heart and with intention and just really understanding like what true leadership looks like. But like, especially speaking to Gen Z professionals in STEM, like, is there anything we haven't talked about that we should before we close things out?
Yeah, well, one thing is the importance of having a mentor. I think that that's definitely for Gen Z. You gotta have a mentor. And I understand that we are in a deficit many times of people that not only want to mentor, but also who should be your mentor. So yes, be careful with who your mentor is. So, but nonetheless, we're not gonna use this as an excuse. You need to have someone that you're looking to that serves as an example of where you want to be. And it doesn't have to be just one. Remember, not one person is going to fit all the boxes. Sometimes we think, well, they may be really good at this, but I don't know if I want that. It's okay. You can have different mentors. You don't have to just have one. You can have a mentor for fitness. Is probably not going to be the same one that you're going to use for your finances. So have a mentor in finances, have a mentor for your health, have a mentor for your career, and know what it is. You don't have to have them all at the same time, but understand where it is that you are right now. But the importance of a mentor is key. You gotta have a real life, tangible example of how it is that you want to show out in that area, how you want to live in that area. So I would say for me, that was one of the mistakes that I made, thinking like, oh, because we all get caught like, "Oh, yeah, I can do this." Sure. And especially when you like, I basically have my break free at a hospital card, but gonna bring out a jail card. Like, yeah, I can do this thing. And no, I couldn't. So mentor and then community. It's okay. You don't have to have just one. There's not one person. If you have one person that fits all the boxes, then also run away from them because they're not.
Um,
'Cause that would be called a cult.
really great.
You
Yeah.
don't want a cult. We're not
Uh,
talking about that. We're talking about finding guidance for you where you're at right now, but also make sure that you are bringing somebody else too, because that's when you really learn. How do you know you're learning something? How do you know you learned something? Is when you have to teach it to somebody else. So I always say, teach to teach. So train up. You gotta be training up. So for Gen Z right now, you may think you're too young to be a mentor. You're not. You are already a mentor to somebody. Be intentional in looking at who that somebody is. Be intentional in finding those somebodies now and grab their hand right along because that's going to make you that much stronger.
Absolutely. I like that you mentioned that they're not too young to be a mentor because I think it took me a while to realize that there were people I could mentor that just a couple years ahead of me. Because even at Gen Z, like if you are just graduate college, you can mentor someone who's in their senior year. It is a much different experience, but just between those two things, just a year difference, but you wouldn't notice that. But just being intentional to find someone who you're maybe one step, two steps ahead of, share your experience so you can mentor them very easily.
Yeah. I mean, it's so rewarding. I mean, we talk about fulfillment, that's 100% right there, but also it helps you become better. I mean, and that is always something I found. Anytime I go serve, I think I'm going to go serve them. I end up like, hey, did they get anything out? Because I got so much out of it. And it's really funny how it works.
Yes.
Yeah, anytime you go serve and you go do something for somebody else, it's amazing the growth that you experience much more. And of course, I love books and I love digital courses and I love all that, but nothing tramples the real life experience of when you actually are in service, what you learn and really the impact that you can have not only for those that you do it for, those that you do it with, but in yourself. You learn a lot about yourself too.
Absolutely. So well said. I want to make sure people know how to stay connected with you, whether it's your website, your social media, like any way people can stay connected with you.
Yeah, well, I am in most of the social media, I think. I'm just starting to get onto TikTok. I know it's just like just starting now. You can find me on Facebook, on LinkedIn, Hannah Bauer, Hannah D. Bauer. My website, Heartnomics, just like the heart, Heartnomics, heartnomics.com. There I have also a free assessment that you can take for alignment. And if you're looking for purpose, I also have a new program for finding your purpose as well and be able to walk that out with you. So I would love to get connected, follow, and of course, you stay connected with you, Paul. I've really enjoyed our conversation here today. You're awesome.
Thank you so much, Hannah. I really enjoyed our conversation too. The time flew by. I looked up, I was like, there's no way we've been talking for almost an hour. I was like, no, it's over an hour. I was like, yes. I think at some point as time allows, we'll definitely want to have you back on the show because I feel like there's so many other things we can potentially talk about.
Yeah, so no, I appreciate it. Thanks for the invite.
Absolutely. Well, turning to the audience, I know you got something from Hannah's story. Just the fact that your story is so incredible in the fact that seemingly things that could be hard, well, they were heartbreaking or like were setbacks, but you built on it from even the surgery that you were the first one to ever do, to the fact that you weren't able to attend school, to being a director of all the education, specifically in grammar, not speaking English in UK. So many things in your story is just like, or I look at it as like God moments that is like, hey, this is where you came from, and this is what you're also going to do with that. I think that's so inspiring, and that definitely inspired me. I hope it inspired you all in the audience too. That maybe there are things, setbacks that you've experienced in your life, and there can be full circle moments that you don't let your setbacks keep you down. The setbacks can be a setup for where you are supposed to be, where God wants you to be, if you believe in God or whatever you believe in, to know that you can do those things, be in community, be intentional, and you can truly be incredible. Thank you for listening.
Be sure to rate and review this podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform. We'll see you here next time. And be incredible. Incredible.